Hi, welcome to Healthy Living in a Toxic World.
Nutrition, wellness practices, and toxin-free living every day.
Let's get started.
Hi, thanks for being here. So, with this podcast, each episode, we look at a topic that is an item that you may come across on a regular basis. Today is one of the most common things that we do consume, which is bread. We are going to talk about how to make homemade bread, why to make homemade bread, some of the ingredients you are eating when you buy commercially made bread. Following this introduction, you'll see a great video interview I did with Sue Becker, who is the GOAT of fresh milled bread flour. We discuss all the things wonderful about making homemade bread, and especially using flour that is fresh milled. When you mill your own flour, you're getting a grain that is as nutritious as possible. It hasn't been exposed to glycophosphate if you're buying an organic variety of the whole wheat berry. And the great thing is you're not going to have all the preservatives. I have on the screen a ingredient label from a typical loaf of white bread. I'm not going to say where this is bought from, but this is a big major retailer. And you will notice one of the ingredients on this is datum. In the video, I remember there's an additive to bread that started with a D that is known for being in yoga mats. That's the chemical that I'm talking about. It's called datum. It is used in cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, and yes, yoga mats. So listen to the interview. I hope you will consider making your own fresh milled flour to make bread. I will do another episode on some basic bread recipes. It is so important, though, that this is a product we come across every day. If you're eating fast food or just about any bread, rolls, whatever that you're buying out are going to be full of emulsifiers, preservatives. Many people have gluten sensitivities. Some people blame it on the gluten. Actually, this whole gluten sensitivity started in about 2006. There's many studies saying that it's probably the additives to bread and the glycophosphate. Wheat is one, as you'll hear Sue mention, they don't use a lot of glycophosphate in the growing of wheat. They do use it, though, to dry percent. So we are getting exposed to glycophosphate. A number one thing that you want to pay attention to is probably bread. That is the next most important thing that if you can change this in your life, it would be beneficial. I hope you listen to the interview with Sue. It'll be coming up now. And thank you for being back. Please subscribe, leave a comment. Go to my website, healthylivinginaToxicWorld.com, for more information. I do have some wonderful videos there, a great one on water. You can join my newsletter. I do give a free gift with that. And I am available for coaching on how to live a more toxin-free lifestyle. I hope you'll check out my website. Leave a comment below, and please like and subscribe. I appreciate you being here, and I hope you enjoyed the interview. I would love to hear your comments. So thank you so much for doing this with me.
You are very welcome. It's my
You're one of the
privilege
first
and
people
honor.
I wanted to have on this new podcast
Yes.
I'm doing, Healthy Living in a Toxic World.
Very good. I'm excited to hear some other episodes.
I'm working on those. I want to put yours out as part of the beginning.
Very good.
But enough about my podcast, because I have a whole nother video about that.
Okay.
And I came all the way here to see you. So let's talk about you and how you got into bread.
Oh my God. Well, I've loved to cook all my life. I grew up Southern. I grew up loving to bake. And I remember I loved to make pies, and I didn't really even like pies too much, but I just loved to bake. My mom could bake and cook, and my grandmother was known for her cakes and biscuits. So I come from a long line, and but I also believe in healthy eating.
Mm-hmm.
So I graduated from the University of Georgia with a degree in food science, and after I graduated, I continued studying the body and biochemistry and all those good things and how it works. And I came at everything from the standpoint of something's not working in my body, you know, then I must not be getting a nutrient that it needs. So kind of simplistic, I get it, but I think it's a good starting place. So I would read my biochemistry books from school. I would read health professionals' information and kind of looked at things that way. And through all my studies, I believed in eating real food. So I was feeding my family real food. We gardened, so, you know, we had fruits and vegetables from the garden and real meat, real vegetables, and we weren't junky, prepackaged, you know, meal people. And, but my bread. So in all my studies, I would learn about whole wheat bread is better, whole wheat bread is better. So I would go to the store and buy whole wheat flour because I made my bread, you know, I made things from scratch. Buy the whole wheat flour. It was kind of gross. It was kind of gritty and dry. And I was like, okay, I was having to cut it with white flour and it still was okay, but I didn't really see any significant health benefits. And no one ever really explained to me why it was better. And no one ever explained options that I had until 1991. Okay. So in 1991, I had subscribed to a publication. The first issue that came into my home was entitled How to Greatly Reduce the Risk of Common Diseases. In that journal, the history of white flour was presented, everything that's done to the flour to make it sit on the shelf forever and ever. And then...
And who was the author of?
It was an older publication, no one particular author.
Okay.
It was an organization, which it's out of print and the organization's not even around anymore. But anyway, I would love to be able to.
Do you have all that in your book?
A lot of the information I present came from that book. Of course, I've learned so much more over the years, but then it was brief discussion on the common diseases that plague America and showed how it was directly related to the missing nutrients and the missing fiber in our bread. This made, with my background, absolute perfect sense. I knew from the Bible that it was spiritually, biblically correct, but then I knew from all my studies in biochemistry and organic chemistry and physiology that it was scientifically correct. It blew me away. With a degree in food science, that's not the study of nutrition, that's the study of food processing. So I've come kind of full circle. I always thought enriching food was a favor the food companies were doing for us. Through that journal, here's what I learned. Whole grains are the most nutrient-dense food God has given us. Only when they're freshly milled do they retain all of their vital nutrients. Grains are seeds, left whole and intact. They're storable. Once the flour is milled, oxidation begins to take place. You not only lose nutrients, but the flour begins to go rancid because there are oils and fats in grains. And so the flour spoils. So this is what I was learning. So I learned that prior to the 1900s, most of the bread eaten and consumed in this country the flour was milled at home and the bread was baked at home. In the late 1800s, it was discovered if they take that seed, which is storable, seeds left whole and intact are storable. But like I said, once they mill it into flour, oxidation begins to take place. The flour loses nutrients, but also begins to spoil. They discovered when they mill the flour, if they would sift the bran away, which contains all the vitamins, all the minerals, all the proteins, the fiber, not all, but a lot is what I'm saying. And the germ, which is the interior part of the seed, which is where your oil is, richest food source of vitamin E. Of course, that's where the little sprout's going to come from. If they would sift that part away, and it has protein as well, enzymes, fiber, and leave only what's called the endosperm, the rest of the seed, which is better known to you and I as white flour, this flour would not spoil. So it led to the invention of these huge steel rolling mills in the late 1800s that would sift away the bran and germ, produce massive volumes of this long-lasting white flour. Like I said, prior to this, the flour was milled at home, bread was baked at home, or milled from a local miller. The miller was a key person in the community. So
and wasn't it noticed that there was a decline in health?
Yeah.
And it's not like the companies wanted to enrich. It was almost
like
they
were forced. Even this week, I even did a little more research. So by 1905, 1910, local millers gone. These steel rolling mills took over the market, and displaced them. So that's why you don't see mills around here in the South. You used to. And there's
Or
mill
now
roads.
historic visit site.
Yes,
The old mill
exactly.
by the river.
Yes.
It looks pretty, but
Yeah. So what happened is now you have white bread and white flour is now the most desirable. And for the first time in history, which you won't read this in history books, it's food for everybody. Prior to the steel rolling mills, the wealthy, the royalty, they had servants and they paid them to sift the bran and germ out and bake their bread from white flour. And it was this fluffier bread.
and the word upper crust
yes, that's exactly
comes from that because they
yes.
wanted that top
Yes.
bread that was the fluffiest. And
Exactly. I'll never forget when we started our business and we started traveling and doing shows and stuff. We always tried to stay over an extra day and do something fun. Well, my
Yeah.
husband I thought it was fun. The kids were like, we love to go to old mansions, people.
Oh, yeah.
So we went to Andrew Jackson's home.
okay.
So they're telling us all about Andrew Jackson, and I think he passed away in his 60s or something like that. Well, they take us out back and we walk down a path to the slave quarters, and they showed us this one little hut where they milled the grain, and they had a sieve, a sifter,
Okay.
a big sifter hanging on a nail, and a picture of the foreman. And what they told us was they said he would sift the corn and sift the white flour part out of the corn. And that's what he would make for the master's house, would make the cornbread out of the white flour part. But the slaves ate the siftings, the bran and
They were
germ
getting
part.
the healthier
Yeah.
part.
So the
but
next words out of their mouth was, Andrew Jackson died in his 60s. This Henry fella, lived to be 100 and something. So I
because he
digress
was-
with that.
no,
But
I love
he was
that, though.
getting the vitamins, the minerals, the fiber, the white flour, virtually devoid of vitamins and minerals. It's proteins and starches that you need. But what happened here is now all of a sudden everybody's eating this, not just the wealthy, not
Right.
just those that had people that would bake it for them and sift that away. So 3 diseases became epidemic. Up until the early 1900s, beriberi was virtually unheard of in America.
Until people with
And-
beriberi was.
Nervous disorder. It's a vitamin B1 deficiency, thiamine. Pellagra was another deficiency disease that became prevalent. I think 1907, I think. I can never remember. It's in my book. Maybe 1902. I can't remember the date. First case of pellagra diagnosed here in Atlanta, Georgia.
Really?
Yes. Southeastern United States, particularly plagued by pellagra. It's a vitamin B3 deficiency. It's known as the disease of the 4 Ds: dermatitis, horrible skin eruptions, oozing sores, dysentery, terrible GI disturbances, dementia. Isn't that interesting? And the last D is death. Yeah. So this was a vitamin B3 deficiency, and then an iron. They started noticing iron deficiency, anemia just showing up everywhere, tiredness and fatigue. So it puzzled health officials, especially like pellagra. They at first thought it was an infectious disease of some kind. I mean, dysentery, skin issues. And but eventually they traced it to the missing B vitamins that were no longer provided in the bread because they had taken the bran and germ out of the flour. So health officials, when they figured it out, they urged the millers to put the bran and germ back in, but the millers were unwilling to sacrifice their very lucrative market
Right.
that they were making for
It made their product more shelf stable.
Well, it made
So
their
they-
product more shelf stable, but now they were selling the bran and germ to the cattle feed industry.
Oh.
Still done today and actually around the world. It's crazy. The more you study, you're like, oh, wow, it's still done today. So they were like, no, we're not going to do that. So it clips along till the 1940s. And in the early 1940s, the government stepped in. We're preparing for war in the 1940s, and they started noticing how sickly and nutritionally deficient the recruits for the military were. And they knew it was the missing nutrients in the flour. So they began to mandate that the flour be enriched. And, and this is what opened my eyes when I learned this. No one ever explained that to me. They would just say whole wheat flour is better.
And what a
whole wheat
shame
flour
to
better.
get a food science degree.
Yes.
I have a food science degree too.
Really?
I was
oh my
a
goodness.
dietitian before I was a nurse.
Wow.
And do you not think now I want my money back.
I know. Yes. Because I'm like, where was I in the bread class?
I know. I thought when I first heard and
Yeah.
started studying all this, like none of this was taught.
Right.
You learn the Krebs cycle, but it was like a calorie in, a calorie out.
Yep.
Nothing
Yep.
about the calorie.
And what this vitamin does and what that
vitamin does.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
bread, it dawns on you, the fresh milled wheat
Yes.
is a multivitamin.
Yes, it is. The most nutrient
most
dense.
bioavailable.
Yes.
Were you ever? No, whole grain.
Yeah. And like I
No.
said, all those years of whole wheat's better, but no one explained
And
that
everybody
to me.
suffered through eating that.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And, you know, as a food scientist, I always thought when I read the word enriched is, oh, we're doing you a favor. We're putting more in than would have been there had we not done that. And that is not the case.
It's not at
For
all.
the 30, 25, 30, maybe even 40 nutrients that are lost when you take out just the bran and germ, they only mandated that they put 4 back in.
Yeah.
B1, B2, B3, and iron.
And all
originally.
synthetic.
All synthetic.
And many people don't realize 40% of this country has that gene mutation.
Oh, yes.
EMF that chart.
MTHFR.
We're not going to say because it's a we're gonna be like,
MTHFR. Yeah. But
and you won't absorb that.
right. And that was it took 50 years. So that was in about 1948. They actually, I didn't know this until recently. It's actually voluntary, but most states picked it up and mandated that it had to be enriched. It would take until 1998. I had already had my last child by then. They mandated folic acid be added. And of course, that's the synthetic form instead of the natural form. That's so high.
A little more than half aren't even going to use it.
Exactly. Yes. And they're discovering now that it's actually these synthetic vitamins are actually causing some health issues. Some European countries I just read this week have actually prohibited the use of folic acid in the flour. So that tells you something. So it's, you know, and of course then iron, but so many nutrients are lost. And then if that's not enough, it's not just what we're losing in the flour, but because of the residual oils in the flour, they turn a little yellow as they oxidize. So you can't have yellow specks in our flour. So a product called nitrogen trichloride was used for more than 25 years until they discovered that it caused seizures in dogs. So they were like, well, if it does that in dogs, maybe that's the problem in people. So it was discontinued, but a chlorine derivative is still being used today. And I think, you know, when I read that information, well, they also found not only did it cause seizure in dogs, but it caused hyperactivity. It said the dogs at the end of just 2 weeks of eating white flour, one study I read said they had the running fits so severe some of them died. Yeah. When I read that in 1991, I couldn't help but think of the scourge of ADD and hyperactivity that we were just beginning to see. I mean, I remember I was like, what is it? You know,
who ever heard of that before?
And now it's every child in every school.
And it all was blamed on sugar.
Yep.
When it's probably one of the most consumed things there are. The 2 most consumed foods, potato and bread.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how much white bread is consumed in this country. And that's kind of like why I want to start this channel. Yeah. How many people know what you just explained?
Yeah. Well, and like you said, as a food scientist, I didn't know this. And so when I read this material, and then of course, like I said, then there was a brief discussion on common diseases that are either directly related to loss of fiber or these loss of nutrients. I mean, so they started the enrichment program, you know, mandated that these B vitamins and iron were added and then folic acid. Now, and supposedly that took care of beriberi, pellagra, and anemia. But I have to always ask the question, how many nervous disorders do we have in this country today? How much skin issues? How many bowel and digestive issues?
Gluten sensitivity. All these people who think they're gluten sensitive because it's a problem in their bowels. Don't realize it's a problem in their white flour. Then let's talk about the glycemic index. And how many people are diabetic. None of this gets put back to bread. If this isn't the biggest health epidemic, you know, right now it's all about JFK change this, JFK change that. You know? And the new pyramid that came out, it's still talking just whole grain. Like the old one, maybe not as much, but still not going into like you and I have figured out. it's more than just whole grain.
Right. Bread has become the enemy, but what people don't know is that bread in the store is the enemy and has caused so many health issues, but you can change that bread.
Right.
Yeah, you can change
And
that.
the flour that's in just about every product you get,
Every flour. Yeah.
anywhere you go.
Yeah.
You know, that's it's one of those things where we're waiting for someone else to change it.
Yeah.
Change it yourself.
Right. And that's what I tell people. Several people say, you need to get with RFK Jr. and get him to change this. I said, the bread companies are never going to go back. They're never going to go back. The only way we can do it is we have to make it ourselves.
We have to do
like
it
we should.
ourselves.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like we should.
And
yeah.
that's why I wanted to start this channel. And you're the first person that
I
called
feel
to
so
say,
privileged.
I want to have you. People do not realize what a big part of the problem this is.
Right.
And like you just said, this is one that can only be changed grassroots.
Yes.
People realizing it and starting to, you know, avoid the garbage bread.
Yeah.
You know, everything's keto, carnivore.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the answer totally for many people that need to heal their gut.
Right.
Maybe a short term.
Maybe
to get your gut healed because
Yeah.
of the damage we've done with these glycophosphates and the GMOs, you know, just making that leaky gut. You know, I notice even since I have been eating this now 3-4 months.
Yeah.
I can tell the difference.
Yes. Oh, I noticed in the first month.
Well, the B vitamins alone.
Yes.
I don't have to take a
energizing.
B complex anymore.
Yeah. And then not to mention, so reading that information, learning what I learned, we were already eating real food. But I had several health issues. I didn't think significant until you realize that they are very significant. So my husband bought me a mill in 1991 is how long I've been doing this, 35 years. More excited today than I was when I started. How many healthy things can you say that about? You know,
this is true.
So got the mill. I was so excited the day it came. I milled flour, made bread for our dinner. We could hardly wait. I had 5 young children at the time. The bread came out of the oven. I thought it was going to be dry and crusty like the store-bought whole wheat flour.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't care. We're choking this down. You know, just eat it. You know, so good for you. Oh my gosh, it was the best bread we'd ever eaten. My kids didn't complain. It wasn't healthy food I had to coerce my children to eat. The most, technically, even amongst all the real food, it was the most nutrient-dense food on the table. And so for me, health benefits, immediate, very noticeable. First day, my bowel constipation issues gone.
Isn't that so amazing?
Yeah.
I have neighbors I'm giving it to.
Yeah. Oh,
and one that we're not going to get too graphic.
Yeah, but
he was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, going to doctors.
Yeah.
Going to get colonoscopies.
Yeah.
Seeing GI specialists.
You just
and eating
bread.
the right bread fix.
Yes. Oh, I know. I'll never forget in the early days of starting, I would, when we were still in our home. So we started our business in 1992 out of our home. And so every now and then a kitchen store or something would call me and ask me would I come do a little bread class. So I would bake some bread and let people take them home. Well, I had done this little class and there was just a few people there. And unbeknownst to me, this couple took a bag of 10 dinner rolls that I had made out of my freshly milled flour. Before 8 o'clock the next morning, I got a phone call from a gentleman. He had eaten some of the rolls that they brought home and had a bowel movement the next morning. And he called me very early going, what's in this bread? And he said, I've been going to the doctor. He gives me medicine. It doesn't do a thing for me. And he goes, all I had to do was eat this bread. And what are you putting in it to make me go? And I'm like, nothing, sir. It's just freshly milled flour. And he goes, well, what's the daily dosage? How much should I eat? And I said, just eat it. And make a long story short. Make a long story short. I found out he was a veteran and had some disabilities. My husband at the time worked down in Chambly 2 nights a week. We found out he lived right near where he worked. And I said, sir, I will make you bread and my husband will bring it to you twice a week.
How sweet.
So it was a couple of days before my husband got there and he said, Sue, I thought he was going to kiss me. He came to the door and he goes, these 10 dinner rolls, I have gone 5 days in a row. And he goes, what is in this? This is incredible. So I lost touch with him this went on probably for about a year. And then he moved or something. And he called me and he said, I've written all my doctors and told them that if they ever have a stubborn case that they need to call you and send the people to you, that you have bread that can fix them. But isn't that sad that, you know,
so
and
really
doctors
is.
are telling people, oh, constipation is just the way of things these days. There's nothing you can do about it.
Get on
How about
Miralax.
yeah. And it's not just an old person's problem. It's a child
yeah.
problem too.
And the leaky gut thing, which
Yeah.
is everywhere now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is
You
leading
get
to
those
everything.
bowels clean where that's not sitting in
You
there.
don't
and
have the
laying that
chronic
billow down.
inflammation. It makes your mood better. Your skin glows.
It makes you happy.
Yeah, it makes you happy. It
Bread
makes
makes
sure
you
you're
happy.
getting your good water.
Yes,
But,
exactly.
you know, how is it the main prayer? Give us this day our daily bread.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
I know. I think when I finally like put this all together and went, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Even Jesus said,
Yeah. He said, and he compared himself to bread, and he said, I am the real bread of life. He who comes to me shall be satisfied. This bread, real whole grains, is satisfying. It fills you up. It nourishes you. It does not make you fat. In fact, the reason we're fat is because of the stuff in the store. And so it's just been amazing. Of course, I'm glad you brought up scripture. I find bread scriptures everywhere. Isaiah 55 is one of my favorite. Why do you spend your money for that which is not bread, and your earnings for what does not satisfy? Hearken diligently to me, he says, and eat what is good. And I just think of, you know, and then there's the verse in Haggai. It says, you know, consider your ways and how you've fared. You earn much, but you earn it to put it in a bag with holes in it. And when I read that, I thought of, wow, we work and work and work to earn money, to spend on food, clothing, and shelter. The food we're buying is the bag with holes in it. If we're buying and that stuff in the store, it's making us sick. Where's the rest of our money going? Medicine, medical, health, you know, issues. And
what is the scripture? My people perish for lack of knowledge.
Yes, yes. And then, I mean, it's just been amazing to me, the health benefits. I mean, that first day, that was done. And I tell people, I'm like, I know you wanted to know this, but I haven't been constipated since 1991. And I was struggled with it all my life. I was chronically dependent on antihistamines. I had to take them at night to be able to breathe, to sleep. I've not had an antihistamine or a decongestant of any kind since 1991. That is 35 years.
Yeah.
So it's just been, then my energy, I had 5 young children. I had 3 children and 3. Not just that, but the fiber in grains, the undigested fiber goes through undigested, dumped into your colon.
Gets rid of all the toxins, all the inflammation.
But the good microbiome ferments that, breaks that fiber down, produces a massive amount of B vitamins that you couldn't get from food alone. Not only that, it produces something called butyric acid, which
everyone's lacking.
Everyone's talking
That's
about
the biggest. Well, there's one of the biggest companies that I'm not going to say the name.
Yeah,
but people do not realize butyric acid. You take antibiotics one time as a child, you pretty much destroy your lifetime of butyric acid.
Because you've destroyed those organisms.
Because you destroyed those organisms.
Yes. And that's the number one fuel source for the cells that line your colon.
Exactly.
So it's absolutely critical for the health of your colon. And yet people are being told that, oh, bread is bad, bread's causing this.
And were you taught any of that?
No, I was not.
No.
It was not until I actually homeschooling my children. We were reading a Christian physiology book, and he was marveling at how God created us. The fiber goes there, it feeds those good gut organisms, and they produce nutrients that we can't get enough of, even if we were eating a perfect diet.
Here, we're going to experts.
Yeah.
I have a bachelor's in food science dietetic degree and a bachelor's in nursing.
Oh, my goodness.
Never learned any of this. If I hadn't learned it on my own, thank God, the good thing I got was understanding of biology and chemistry, that when I came across the truth,
you can learn
I went, well, you can hear the bells go off.
Yes.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly the opposite of what we teach.
Well, and then those organisms also produce antibiotics. I tell people they don't want the bad guys living there any more than you. They also produce vitamin K, and it's a particular form of vitamin K that helps you uptake your calcium and lay it down in your bones. So why are we seeing so much osteoporosis and things like that?
And taking massive amounts of calcium is the last thing you want to do
Exactly.
because it
Exactly.
completely reverses what you just said.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
and it, it's
So,
there are so many things
yeah.
that we could be here all day.
Yes, we could.
But
And what is so interesting to me is that bread was the first food taken out of the home, bread making. And now look where we are today. I mean, the packaged foods and the artificial dyes and the colors and just the fruit juices and the roll-ups and the this and the that, and the people think they're eating fruit because it's made with real fruit. And I'm just like, but it's really saddening to see. And you can trace the decline in the health of America from 1900 forward, and you can see we in 1900 studies were done, and America was one of the healthiest countries of the industrialized nations. Around 1910 drastically started falling, and now we're one of the sickest nations in the world of the industrialized nations.
and
So
it's so much all combined,
yeah,
and so much of it does come back
yeah,
to bread nutrition.
yeah,
Diabetes being rampant.
yep,
One of my struggles, I've had insulin resistance. I've
yes,
been pre-diabetic. I can't tell you how many regular options I've looked into.
yeah,
Nobody knows what to do with it.
yeah, yeah,
They tell you you're not exercising enough, you're not this, you're not that. They know nothing about hormones,
right.
nothing about
The food you're
the food and the bread. I've done experiment on myself. When I eat the whole grain
yeah,
bread, I do not have the glycemic
the
spike
spikes, yeah,
that
and
you
that's
get with
yeah.
regular bread. I mean, it's like a third.
Yeah, and that's because of the fiber
The
that's
fiber
and
that
the B vitamins, because some of them help you metabolize sugar, but it's the fiber. So carbohydrates are converted through digestion, you learn that, to sugars.
but you don't get that
But
quick
you
hit.
have to have those sugars are not bad guys. They're the ones your body uses for energy. But the fiber causes a slower breakdown, a slower release of sugar. So you get these sugars and this steady production of energy that just keeps you here, and your blood sugar doesn't spike and drop and spike and drop.
Yep.
So that
I bet
was
there's a bunch of diabetics out there listening to this going, what?
yes. And see, we
Because
hear
they're
this.
told you just can't have bread. You
Right.
can't have this.
Right. And I wouldn't have that in the store, but you can have this bread.
Yeah, not
And
anything other
we
than
have so many thousands of testimonies now. I mean, so it started with me personally buying a grain mill for my family.
And when was that?
1991,
Oh, my
February of
goodness.
1991. And
You
so
are
I
the
saw
OG.
my health change. Then I had 5 young children, no more ear infections, no more just constant trips to the doctor. In fact, my husband likes for me to say, in the 25 years of raising them on bread, 2 doctor visits for sickness and needed antibiotics. Not opposed to that. There's a time and place, but it
Absolutely.
should not be. I mean, there are people that go more than that in a week, taking their children. And so I began to notice this. I became very excited. I started studying how did this help me get rid of my sinus congestion? So I started studying and sharing the bread with other people. And I would bake bread, any church event, I would make the rolls and I would give bread away. Well, the next thing I know, people are calling me and saying, what's in, like that man, what's in this bread? I feel better. Moms of young children, I have more energy. And one of the most exciting was the lady that called me before 8 o'clock in the morning to tell me it's the bread, it's got to be the bread, and she said her cholesterol dropped 85 points in
Wow.
just 1 month. And she said, I know it's the bread. I've been 3 years, 3 doctors, multiple medications to get my blood levels down. Nothing has worked. And now all I've changed is the bread. And in 1 month, it has dropped 85 points. Now, cholesterol is not a bad guy. I love the way
No,
I love
isn't.
the way Adele Davis puts it. I think this is so appropriate. She goes, it's just the pig that got stuck in the barn door. Isn't that quite a vivid, perfect
I like
description?
that.
Yeah. So it's a nutrient that every cell in our body needs. It's the
right.
precursor of all of our sex hormones, all of our anti-inflammatory hormones. So it's such a needed nutrient, but it can't get out of our blood and into our cells because we no longer are consuming the nutrients to break it down. Well, guess what I found out? So when she shared with me that, I was like, well, I don't know this story. I
Yeah.
pulled out my biochemistry books. Every nutrient is there in whole grains. B6, inositol, choline, lecithin, the
Lecithin is-
phospholipid that's in all your grains and beans, and that's what brings your cholesterol down.
Yeah.
Heart disease cholesterol was never an issue
No.
until they
Who
started.
heard of
until
everyone
white
having
bread,
heart disease?
Mhm. In fact, it was I can't Oslo. I can't remember his name now. From Johns Hopkins University in 19, I think it was 10. He wrote and said you should only see one case of heart disease in one patient in a hospital in like 10 years, something ridiculous like that. I mean, it was astronomical. The scarcity and the what's the word I'm looking for? The
It was
rarity.
unheard of.
It was unheard of.
of.
And now it's the number one.
And
Yeah.
usually when people did have it, it was from high stress.
Yes.
Not,
Yeah.
you know.
Yep. But
And
Psalm
look at how
104. Yeah.
now we went through that whole ride since the 80s. Cholesterol's the bad guy.
Bad guy.
Bread's the bad guy. Now the new studies are coming out. They're even saying that like the HDL that was the horrible. Now they realize
The
this is
LDL, yeah.
actually, I'm sorry, thank you.
It's
The
actually,
LDL, they're the helper.
yes,
They're like, they said
there's what
it's like-
transport it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they're saying that blaming, like when they were looking at blood clots from
Yeah.
cardiac events,
Yeah.
that there was all this LDL in there. So
Right.
it must be causing it. LDL being in the clot is like blaming the soldier for the war.
Yeah.
They're there trying to clean that up,
Yes. Right. Well, and they're
not
the transport.
causing it. Yeah,
they're
they're
the
trying to get
transport
that stuff out to
mechanism.
take it
Mhm.
back.
Yes.
And they're
exactly.
there trying to dissolve that to take it back.
Yeah.
Sometimes having too low of an LDL is not good.
Right.
You don't have that transport that takes it back.
Yeah.
And,
Exactly.
they want everybody to have no LDL,
Yeah.
no cholesterol. So why, men suffer the most when
Yeah.
they get on statins,
Yeah.
and they have, it destroys all the things men need.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
We're coming full circle. Bread's not the enemy. It's the kind of bread.
Yes.
The
yes.
things that we're taught,
Yeah.
are all corrected with the right bread.
Exactly. Exactly. And all these,
And it can be good. That's the part.
yes.
Everyone thinks whole wheat, like you were saying, is
Is-
this grainy. You got to
Mm-mm.
choke it down.
Nope. And there's my grain mill.
Yeah.
I mean, when people,
Same.
when I used to tell people, I'd take bread places and they'd go, oh my goodness, this is the best coffee cake, or this is the best bread. Can I get your recipe? And I'm like, well, yeah, you can have my recipe, but I mill my own flour. It was so funny. This was back in the 90s. They go, you do what?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I mill my own flour. And it always baffled me. The second question was always, where do you live? And I think they're picturing a barn,
you're taking
or
it to
or
the
a
big-
grist
yeah,
mill,
grist
or
mill.
something. And I'm like, I live in a tiny little house with a tiny little kitchen. It sits on my counter. You don't have to have a barn, and it grinds. I mean, as fast as you can get your other ingredients together, you can have
It's done.
8
Yeah.
cups of flour or 2 cups, whatever you need. It's so fast. I love my Wonder
It's
Mill.
not hard at all.
No.
As somebody that's been doing it now for the past 2 or 3 months,
it's so
it is
easy.
not a problem.
Right. If you never cook at all and you don't know where your kitchen is, you don't know how to turn on your oven, there might be a learning
Yeah,
curve.
there might.
But if you cook or bake, or it is the easiest thing to incorporate in your
It
life.
is.
And the thing that is so exciting to me is not only is it easy, it produces immediate results. Immediate.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna know that you have more energy. And that was what was so amazing to me, that we just added this bread to our already real food that we were eating. We were eating real food, but the bread changed everything, because we not only took away the white bread or the commercially, I didn't do white bread, but I was buying the store-bought whole wheat that you find out is not whole wheat at
it's
all,
not whole-
even
just-
if it is,
yeah.
So we took that away, but replaced it with the most nutrient-dense food God's given us. We were getting the vitamins, the minerals, the iron, the fiber, the filling,
Maybe that's what we can get JFK Jr. to do.
yeah,
Add fresh milled whole wheat grain,
yeah,
that pyramid, and then put
Yes.
regular bread like down there somewhere.
Yes, because it should be the top. In what most countries, grains are the staple.
Yes.
They're the staple. I mean, the Mediterranean diet, they wouldn't think of having a meal without grains.
right.
grains or pasta. In fact, we had a lady come in and teach a class. She goes, if I have grains or pasta, I can make a meal.
You
I can
can.
boil it up, boil that grain. If I don't, you don't have to make bread. You can boil them and eat them and add veggies and a vinaigrette and you've got a meal. And
And
so,
it's a shame how our country is so out of touch
yes,
compared to the European.
right.
Like you go on a European vacation. I
The-
spent my time at the grocery stores going, turning things around, looking 2 ingredients, 3
Yeah.
ingredients.
Yes. Mhm.
You do not see food additives over there.
Mm-mm.
Why is that allowed here?
I-
Why? And we are, the average American is so out of touch
Yes.
with
Yes. They are.
where their food comes from, how it's produced,
Yeah.
what, we've got to get back to
We've
that.
got to get
We
back to
can't
the
wait
way.
for someone else to do it for us.
No, we
And
can't.
and I'm so tired of hearing, oh, they need to pass a law. They need to just don't buy it.
Yeah. Yeah.
When enough of us are looking at labels. Don't buy the
Yeah.
garbage.
Yeah.
You
Just-
don't need
There's no
this.
food labels on fruits and
Yeah,
vegetables
there's
because you
no-
don't need it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like when you quit buying, guess what? They'll quit doing it.
Yeah.
They'll quit doing it because they
Yeah.
want your.
Yeah.
And you really have to take control of your own health.
You really do. And God intended us to. I think of the children of Israel in the wilderness, and God gave them manna.
I wonder what manna tasted like.
Well, it said in one place that it tasted like a wafer made with honey or something.
Like a
yeah,
sweet-
coriander made with honey. But when you read that, all my years of growing up, and even as an adult, because it calls it bread from heaven or the angel's bread or
Yeah.
whatever in some other psalms. And so I always thought that they went out and like had their bread basket and was just picking up
They'd be-
raw and putting them in and going back and eat. But when you read Exodus, they were to gather it, and it says they could grind it and make a cake out of it or boil it and eat it. Well, what does that sound like to you? Sounds like a grain,
It's
doesn't it? And so that's interesting to me. And then
but they never really tell you how to show up.
yeah,
Where
and it said each person had to gather for his own household.
so, it
So
was
that's
like,
what when we
was
pray,
there a
give us
manna
this day
field
our
that
daily bread.
appeared and
It
you go
just-
out and get the manna?
gathered your own manna. Even
It-
Moses had to gather
His
manna for
own-
his family, or somebody did.
Well,
So,
if they ever find the Ark of the Covenant, I would love to see what manna looked
me
like.
too.
It's like you envision a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
Now you're like, what we're saying, was it
Yeah.
a grain?
Yeah,
Like,
it was obviously treated like a grain.
they didn't have.
So fascinating.
It really.
And the other thing, I've always quoted that Isaiah scripture, why do you spend your money for that which is not bread, and your earnings for what does not satisfy? I thought about that always in the terms of you're spending your money on this dead bread, I call it
Yeah,
sometimes,
dead bread.
nutritional deficient bread. That's
Or
not
toxic
that's
bread,
not-
what-
yes, that's not really bread. Spend your money on real bread. But last year sometime I got to thinking, why are you spending your money on that which is not bread, and your earnings for what does not satisfy? All these foods out here that aren't bread, fruits and vegetables, they're healthy, meat, healthy, but those things don't satisfy like bread. Because
Right.
Jesus said, I am the real bread of life. He who comes to me shall be satisfied. It's so nutritionally complete. The fiber fills you up, the slow release of sugars. I mean, it's satisfying.
Perfectly.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
I
Yeah.
so appreciate
Yeah.
you
And
doing
then-
this with me today. And
Yeah.
what other things would you that I haven't asked?
Well, I think people don't realize, I mean, you're about healthy living in a toxic world. We don't realize that bread is detoxifying, because your bowels that's your trash can. What your body says, I don't want, take it to the trash. And when those toxins are just sitting there day in and day out, not being eliminated, then they're getting absorbed into our system. You
And
know?
that creates mental illness,
Yes.
chronic inflammation,
Inflammation.
which is the basis for
So many
autoimmune,
things.
heart disease.
Yeah.
We don't have the right glycemic control.
Right. But
So-
the simple one, which this one took me a while to figure out why my sinus congestion went away. A response to
It'd be
toxins in your
inflammatory.
body is you make mucus so you can blow it out your nose or cough it up. Did you ever think of why you get a snotty nose when you get a cold? It's because you
Your
have
body's
toxins
trying to
there,
get
and we're
that.
trying to get rid of it. So when my bowels were being cleaned every day, trash being taken out every day, toxins being pulled out every day, this all went away, cleared up. So people don't make that connection, I think. And not only that, the more I'm reading, because I have had people email me that they've had a little bit of rash or something like that. And I started studying, and that's a common detox reaction. So when your bowels start cleansing, then it starts pulling those toxins back in to get it to eliminate it, or start eliminating it, pushing it through your skin. So that was fascinating to me. So I think people just don't realize
It's such a simple fix
and such a
for-
broad.
for all the things that people are taking these multitude of medications that you're not going to get off of.
Right.
Who wants
not
to
intended to get off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not intended, right?
Yeah.
But
That, and that's just like, the whole bread thing and the whole gluten thing. People don't understand that gluten is really, it's a culinary term. Grains don't have gluten. Gluten is formed from the two proteins that are uniquely found in wheat. Guess who put them there? God put them there.
Right.
When you hydrate wheat flour, those two proteins form that stretchy substance that we call gluten. It's important in bread making because when yeast and those fermenting organisms produce carbon dioxide gas, it's that stretchy, elastic proteins that trap it, and that's what enables the bread to rise. So God put it there. Man didn't put it there. It's always been there. The problem is when you strip away the bran and germ, you're pretty much eating those gluten-forming proteins and starch. Here's something I've learned in the last probably 5 or 6, maybe 7 years, more than that. Protein digestion is in your stomach for the most part. Carbohydrate digestion begins in your mouth with your amylase and your saliva. So you swallow it down, pretty much stops there. Your stomach begins to produce acid because your protein digestive enzymes must have an acid environment to work. Okay? So we got a problem here. What is one of the number one drugs prescribed in America today? An antacid. So when you alkalize your stomach acid, you've created now a protein digestion problem. The technical scientific term for an allergy is an adverse reaction to a protein component of a food. If you don't properly break down those proteins, gliadin and glutenine, those two proteins in wheat, then what's going to happen? Go through your system, lay down your villi, cause these issues. And
then you have leaky gut, and you have your toxins are getting put right into the bloodstream.
So wheat is being blamed, but why don't we look at the other issues?
Yeah, there's a reason you need those acids farther down in the intestinal tract.
And
then when they started with the omeprazoles and the protonics that shut your proton pumps off.
Oh yeah.
That make that acid.
Yeah.
Then C. difficile. I remember being a nurse, and all of a sudden everybody's getting C. difficile. All the nursing homes. And it's when those meds came out.
Yeah.
And everybody's put on Prilosec, Nexium, omeprazole, it ruined, like you just explained.
A lady wrote me recently and said that she had been taking antacids, and they found polyps in her colon or I guess in her stomach. I can't remember.
Somewhere
but anyway,
in the digestive
she had
tract.
polyps somewhere in her digestive tract, and the doctor said, "Don't worry about it. It's due to your antacids, but they're insignificant. They won't hurt you."
Yeah.
Like, okay.
How can that ever be a good thing?
Yeah. So, these are things that people need to know.
We've basically destroyed our guts.
Yeah, and we have compromised our protein digestion, and yet then we want to blame it on the food, the milk or the dairy or the eggs or the bread or whatever, when maybe it's something like, the heavy use of antibiotics, the heavy use
all of it combined, the stuff put in the
antacids,
food.
yes,
The things put in the food.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's talk, we won't get into glycophosphate and the number of GMO foods people are eating that our guts were never meant.
Right.
They don't even know what to do with that.
I do want to clarify, there is no genetically modified wheat. and glyphosates is not readily used on wheat crops. So that's something that's kind of a misinformation that's gotten out there and with the internet.
But it's in everything else, just
Oh,
about
it's
everything
terrible.
else
It's
that
a
people eat.
farming practice.
But
It's
it's
terrible.
not. I'm glad you added that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not
'cause
as
that's
bad.
something people need to know. Yeah.
So here's the thing though, with the breads, there's a lot of the preservatives. And
Ah,
so it's getting into our bread in a back door.
yeah,
If you
yeah.
look at some of the yoga mat, they call it, the preservatives and the additives, I can't think of the word right now. That gives it that soft
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
consistency.
Mhm.
That's a genetically modified preservative.
Oh my goodness, yeah, yeah,
And those are the things our bodies are not meant
yeah,
to take in.
yeah,
And we don't know what to do with it. And then when you're not giving
yeah,
them the health they need to get that stuff through,
yeah, yeah,
it's no wonder everybody's in the shape they are.
yeah. But, God intended bread to be the staff of life, and so, I'll close with this last scripture. I find bread scriptures, of course, everywhere. This one was the most fascinating to me. Deuteronomy 24, verse 6 said, scripture on a law about borrowing and lending. So if I borrow something from you, I give you something of mine that's of value for you to hold. And it's a pledge that I'm going to return what I borrowed from you. I'm going to pay you back. But in this scripture, Deuteronomy 24, verse 6, listen to what God says. He says, do not take a man's millstone as a pledge because you would be taking his life. And what happened in the early 1900s, we let somebody take our millstone. And they've been taking our life and our health ever since.
Wow, I love that.
Pretty cool.
It's so amazing when you start to learn this. And even as you read these things, I say the Bible's got living words.
It does.
And the more you gain knowledge and then you read those scriptures and they have a whole new meaning.
Yes, they do. Yes.
Well, thank you so
You're
much.
so very welcome. It's been my pleasure to talk with you today. I can't wait to hear more of your podcast coming up.
And this is what a grist mill, where you would go to buy your bag of flour if you lived here in the 1800s, looks like.